Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and more FM translator. Hello and good morning to you, my friends. It is the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hi, how are you? What's going on in your world? How was your weekend? Are you ready to dive in and start the week fresh? I am not ready. I was laying in bed last night at 12:30, unable to sleep. I don't know why. I don't know. And then that alarm just went off like 4 hours later, and I just wanted to strangle it. But, it is, I guess it's just one of those things. I mean, it's Funday, right? Funday Monday. And we've got to be adults about it and tackle it with vim and vigor and be all positive about it. And I just want to go back to bed. The worst part is that once you finally do fall asleep when it's like that, is that you are just like, oh, it's so good. And then the alarm goes off and you're just, if I hit that snooze button one more time, it's going to be bad, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so that, thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning in our combined and shared misery of Monday. It is what it is. Why do we have to be adults? Yeah, that's the first question I asked myself this morning when that alarm went off. Why do I have to be? Why can't I just be a teenager for another minute and just hit that alarm and have mom come in and wake me up? Mom, I don't want to get up. All right. Well, let's crack into this, shall we, and see what we've got going on for this morning. This morning, we're going to be talking with David Boyle, who is going to, man, I really wish we could get a twofer. First and foremost, he's going to come on and we're going to talk about the COVID Alliance. Am I right? I think it's the COVID Alliance. We're going to talk about that. They're having a meeting here in October, and we're going to discuss that. And we'll figure it out and see what all's going to be covered on that, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes this morning, starting at about 6:24. We'll hit on that. And then maybe we'll pull David aside for a little bit afterwards, because he has written a fantastic article talking about the local races for school board in Fairbanks. Now, as I've mentioned several times here over the last couple of weeks, we are hot and heavy into it, folks. I mean, we're there. We are just about to have the local elections across the state in various areas here in the first week in October. And this is where you can make a difference. I will say first and foremost, uh, the frustration that many of us feel as we watch the absolute clown show that is national governance in this country. We feel a tremendous amount of frustration, kind of hopelessness. I keep remembering the old proverb of something along the lines of "hope deferred makes the heart sick," kind of thing. Like we keep hoping that they're going to figure it out. We keep hoping that we're all going to we're going to be able to come together. We hope that we're going to be able to find some compromise and that there'll be an end to the divisiveness and the bickering and the back and forth that we see a lot of times that we see a lot of times on the national stage. And usually we are severely disappointed. And I got to be honest with you, it gets a little tiring, does it not? I mean, you guys are all, you guys are all know what I'm talking about. You watch you think it'd be written by somebody who works for The Onion or for the Babylon Bee, some of the stories that are coming out, but no, they're actually true to life stories. This is what's happening in Washington. And quite honestly, it's one of the reasons why I have been advocating for the last, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, I don't know at this point, to where we should really just focus more on issues that are here inside the state and really focus on issues, more importantly, that are happening in your own backyard. And when you have these local elections coming up, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your children, you owe it to your family, the people around you, to really study in and talk about the different people who are running for various races and candidacies and everything else, so that you can be informed and hopefully make that difference. Because I think, as I was mentioning earlier, there was a time about, I guess it was close to 10 years ago, where while the state was ostensibly pretty red overall, more of a conservative state, according to the numbers and everything else, and what, kind of that anecdotally, what, you take the temperature of the room and that's what you'd think. The local communities, the local governance was all bluish purple. In some cases it was really blue, and in some cases even in areas that were strong bastions of conservatism, talking about what Fairbanks used to be, or the Matsu, or the Kenai. And you looked at the people, you look at the general election information, and you're like, oh, this is mostly, Republicans or conservatives or whatever. And then you'd look at what was happening locally, and you'd find that the majority of the people on the assemblies and the city councils were all, or mostly, progressive, liberal, bluish purple kind of folks. And you're like, how does that happen? Well, it happens because we stop paying attention to we get distracted by the bread and circuses of the national stage, because that's what's thrust down our throats every minute of every day. With the CNNs and the Fox Newses and the MSNBCs and I mean everything else, even the, I don't know, what's the name of that one network that everybody seems to quote to me from the conservative? Oh, and the One America Network, WorldNet Daily. I mean, I don't know, but they all focus on the national stuff. Like we can have all we can do really at this point is to get outraged. We can get outraged by it, and that's about the effect of what we can have on that. Meanwhile, we stop paying attention to what's going on locally, where we can have a true and effective difference. And we've seen that time and time and time again. I remember that there have been many instances. I mean, one of the most glaring instances was in Fairbanks when Bart LeBon and Catherine Dodge ran against each other for a state house seat. And the difference, when it was all said and done in the final recount, it was one vote. One vote. but there's been mayors for races in the Fairbanks North Star Borough for mayor that were decided by as little as 12 votes. And I'm sure you've seen that around the state. I mean, the most famous one was the one where they had to flip a coin up on the, they flip a coin up at one of the, I can't remember, it was Pack-a-Tack? I can't remember who it was, but they literally had to flip a coin to see who won because it was a dead heat the whole time. So don't tell me that your vote doesn't count. Just tell me that your vote, because it does. And guess what? If you got informed about the local issues and chose your candidate, whoever it is, whether, we agree on the issues or not, I'm not saying, you can definitely not agree on the issues with me and go vote your conscience. That's the whole point. But if you can educate and bring others with you, just think about the multiplication power of that. You've got votes that were decided by a handful of people. You've got whole positions, mayorships and legislative seats and things that were decided by, 1, 2, 10, 12, 15 people. What if you brought one extra friend? What if you brought, a couple extra people? What if you gave somebody a ride? What if you helped somebody get their absentee ballot in, or, helped an elder who couldn't make it down there? What if you did those things? What if you got 1 or 2 more votes for every race out there? What a difference could that make? And that way you could still scream at your TV at the end of the day as you watch whatever you're watching to tell you about locally nationally what's going on. But at least you'll feel good because you were able to make a difference local where you're mostly affected. I mean, there are some overarching effects of things that are going on the federal side of the world, but more importantly, in our day-to-day lives, we are affected by what's going on locally. That's what needs to happen. That's where the engagement should be. Get out, bring a friend, help some folks. You do what you need to do. Spread the gospel of paying attention. And LeBon turned out to be as liberal as Dodge. Having served on a borough assembly with Catherine Dodge, I can tell you that's a no. LeBon may not have been great, but he was better than the alternative, my friend. I'll tell you that right now. Better than the alternative. So we've got these races coming up in just 3 weeks from tomorrow. I got to do the count now because it's, again, I haven't had any sleep. 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow is going to be the election in many municipalities, except Anchorage. Many municipalities and boroughs across the state, most of them, I think, in fact. The voting day is going to be October 3rd. So have you chosen your candidate? And not just for assembly, but have you looked at the school board candidates? Because believe it or not, that's important. Important enough that there are outside groups that are throwing tens of thousands of dollars into these local races for school board. Right? Some crazy stuff. Anyway, we're going to talk more about that here later on, but we've got David Boyle coming in, and we told him we would let Tim come on out and tell us about this meeting in October with the COVID Alliance. I mean, I'm kind of over the whole COVID thing now myself, so I don't know exactly what the meeting's going to do, but I mean, I know that there's lots of talk about a new variant and what are they going to do and potential shutdowns. And I just, I'm not going to comply. So I don't know what's going on, but we'll get the rundown from David Boyle here in a minute. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We're going to be back with more here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. David Boyle, our guest.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, my friends, how are you on this Monday morning? Yeah, I just could not shut my brain off last night. I mean, just could not. It would just ugh. And last time I looked at the clock, it was like 12:26, and I'm like, this is insane. This alarm is going to go off in 4 hours. Anyway, we're so if I seem a little more dunderheaded than usual today, that's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. I see David Boyle is in the green room, so let's get things squared away with him and bring him on the program to talk about what's happening, and we'll do that right now. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning, Michael. Can you hear me?
Again, are you got another? I hear myself in an echo in the background. Are you running a radio or something in the background?
Yes, my wife is listening. Turn it off, Linda.
Yeah, turn it off or turn it way down. One of the two. I can hear it in the background. So,
Go in the bedroom. Okay.
yeah. All right. So good morning, David. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty well. Still got a bit of a tickle cold, which is kind of funny. It feels like a carry, just continuing on with my latest COVID, maybe, but I hope not. But right now I'm in Leadville, Colorado, and it's at 10,200 feet. So that might have an impact on my O2 uptake as well.
Yeah. No, that breath thing at high altitude, definitely not a fun thing. All right. So we're going to dive into this on the whole COVID Alliance thing, and we can talk about that. Do you, I would like to talk to you about this latest article that you just dropped yesterday, I guess, over at Must Read,
Yes.
talking about the Fairbanks School Board. So I don't know if you want to take a segment and talk about the COVID Alliance. I don't know if we can. I don't think we need 2 segments on it. It's probably enough to get the information out, and then spend the second segment talking about that, or what if you have the time.
Nope, that's fine, Michael. Be glad to. And yeah, those folks up in Fairbanks better start paying attention to their school board elections.
Yeah, no, I agree. They should be paying attention to all the elections, but school board is the one. I guess that's the one that keeps getting forgotten. I mean, I remember even, as I sit down and go to vote, and I'm like, oh, who's running for school board? It's like last minute. Even I was like, who is that? Unless there was some candidate that was a true standout, I could never remember or bother to pay attention to it. And we should be paying attention to it.
Yeah, I've always said, like in Anchorage, that it appears as if chuck holes are more important than kids when it comes to voting, because people tend to vote for, are the roads plowed? Have they filled
Right.
the chuck holes in front of my home? And it's an afterthought when it comes to school board elections. And the other thing is, and people used to call me up and said, David, who do I vote for in school boards? And
Yeah, that happens all the time to me. Who do I vote for? Not necessarily in school board, but people that call me, I get 2 or 3 calls on election day. Who should I vote for? You're deciding now who to vote for? I mean, we should be paying attention to this a lot closer, All right, well, hold the line, David. We're 22 seconds out, and we're about to jump back into it. So I'm going to mute you for just a minute here. We'll be right back to you. The Michael Duke Show continues. Your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Please like it. Well, we're a minute out. We're okay. Wait. I got distracted. There's too many different colored boxes up here above me. So now we're 40 seconds out. I was a little ahead of guess better to be early than to be late in this situation. Jennifer Sampson says the left running in Fairbanks are super libs this year. I mean, I would not doubt it. Look at what's going down on the Kenai. All I had to do is read the flyer on the Kenai Peninsula Borough and realize, oof, man, there's some left-wing people down here for sure. And if you don't take control of your school system, you best pay attention or expect to get what you get at this point. All right. Just vote the editorials. Read the editorials in the paper and vote the opposite, says Jim. Well, all right, here we go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like and share, like and follow. Let's get to it. Here we go.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Dukes Show.
What? Never. Only my wife says I'm a pain in something, but I don't know what she means by that. I'm a perfect angel. Welcome back to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. This morning, we've got a chance to talk to David Boyle, a name you probably recognize if you've been following education issues here in the state of Alaska for the last, 20 years or so. We're going to talk to him about education, though, but we're going to do that in the next segment. In this segment, David wanted to come on and talk a little bit about the COVID Alliance and a big get-together that they're having here in October. David, let me just first say that I'm over COVID. Okay. I at this point, I just don't, I know there's talk about a new variant and maybe new mask mandates and all this. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not complying with any of it. Yeah, exactly. Put that thing over your face. I am not complying with any of it because, we already went through all the fear. We already went through the whole thing. I've done it all. They've shut down the businesses. We've paid the price. We've had the pain and seen that it really hasn't made much of a difference. And, because we all got COVID at one point or another anyway, it seems like. And like I said before, it's no longer a pandemic. It's endemic. It's going to be not just cold and flu season. It's going to be cold, flu, and COVID season moving forward with a new variant every year. We just can't shut everything down. So that's my coming into this conversation. That's my point of view, just so you know. So tell me about what's going on here. What is the COVID Alliance? What are you trying to achieve? What's going on?
Well, Michael, I hear what you're saying, and that is a big problem today because people have kind of gotten over it. However, the government hasn't gotten over it, especially the federal government. And when they started putting out mandates on vaccines, the new booster just got approved by the FDA, a booster for the COVID the strain is only 3% in the environment today. So they're way behind the power curve. And they've approved that for kids, 6 months, people 6 months and older, even for infants. But, we know people that have lost friends and relatives to COVID in the last round. As you know, excuse me, many kids fell way behind because their schools were shut down for, God knows for whatever reasons. The kids were masked, so their learning was actually stymied. And these children, I call them the lost generation. Some of them, many of them, will never catch up, and they're probably going to be high school dropouts. So what are you going to do when the federal government says if you want to fly on an airplane, you're going to have to wear a mask and you're going to have to be tested before you get on the airplane? And I foresee that coming because we have an election year next year, and that's what it was all about back in 2020, as we all know. So there's a lot of questions that are going to be answered. The Alaska COVID Alliance is sponsoring a tremendous, excuse me, I got that dang cold, an event on October 13th and 14th at the Mountain City Church, which was the old called the Anchorage Baptist Temple. And it's going to be on Friday night. We're going to have Dr. Peter McCullough talk about COVID injuries, particularly myocarditis, and treatment for the spike protein injuries. And here's why you should be concerned about that. The mRNA was genetically engineered by people like Dr. Robert Malone and others. And the thing about that artificial spike protein in your body cannot get rid of it. So it will always be in your body. So he's going to, and I don't know, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the populations in the country. I think within 3 to 5 years, there's going to be a lot of bad adverse reactions to the spike proteins from the mRNA vaccine.
Well, I mean, there's already, mean, you mentioned myocarditis. I mean, that has been one of the biggest adverse reactions is that men in their early 20s have had a significant, I mean, like a double-digit spike in myocarditis. People who are perfectly healthy, who are athletes, who are, playing in college sports and doing everything else. These young men with no previous history of anything all of a sudden develop myocarditis and other heart problems shortly after receiving the vaccine. And I mean, I'm not saying that correlation causation is always the same, but when you see a number jump like that, and the only commonality between them is the vaccine, that's a that's a real that's a real issue. I mean, there's been a lot of things people have, autoimmune. I have a friend that got the vaccine and had a triggered autoimmune event, and she's fighting for her life right now. She could have amputation on her legs because she's got an autoimmune response that's just eating her flesh up. It's a bad deal, and it was never a problem before. And all of a sudden, now it comes out.
We've had a lot of adverse reactions to both COVID and to the vaccine. And let me tell you a personal story. My nephew's son, he's 32 years old, he's in the Air Force, and he was a training instructor at Lackland Air Force Base for basic trainees for 4 years. He was told that he had to get the vaccine, and he got the Moderna, and then he got the second shot. Well, he's 32 years old, he's buff, he looks like he just came out of Gold's Gym. This year, he had a heart attack, rushed to the hospital, emergency room, diagnosed him with a heart attack. And by the way, he's had those 2 Moderna shots, and he's had COVID 4 times. So now he was on light duty for about 6 months. And when he got evaluated by the cardiologist at the base hospital, they told him, this is in Florida, they told him, oh, it was neither COVID nor the vaccine that caused your heart problems. Well, interestingly enough, just last week, he has myocarditis and pericarditis. Last week, he went in to see another cardiologist, and the cardiologist said the vaccine caused your myocarditis and pericarditis, and it was put into his records. I immediately told him, please get a copy of that record before it's scrubbed from your records. So, you see all these athletes falling down on the field and dying.
Yeah, it's a frustrating thing for sure. So, what else are we going to learn here at the Alaska COVID Alliance meeting? What are obviously COVID's going to be the topic, but give us the background of some of these speakers and the things that they're going to be talking about.
Well, we have Dr. Meryl Nass, who's going to speak on the World Health Organization and its overreach and taking over of sovereignty of different countries. She actually is a tremendous story. Excuse me. She's an internal medicine doctor in the state of Maine. She has been fighting the state medical board there for 2 years. They have suspended her license. They've told her that she needs to go into drug and alcohol rehab evaluation and have a psychiatric evaluation. And she's a member of the Children's Health Defense, which is organized or run by RFK Jr. So she was there 2 years ago. She's going to be tremendous. And we also have Dr. Stuart Tankersley, who's from Alabama. He actually runs an organization in Alabama that supports alternative treatments for COVID, including ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Then a little bit of variety. We have Michael Ashley, who's written over 50 books. Excuse me again, 50 books. And he's going to talk about techno-fascism, and we all know it's here, but we can change that story and fight back. And that has to do with the social media being controlled by the federal government.
Right, which the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, by the way, just came in and spanked the government over because of all the information that's out there. They just came out and confirmed that that's going on.
Right. And then we have Dr. Farr's, our own doctor from Alaska. She's treated over 2,000 patients now with COVID, and I think she's only lost one. But now she's going to talk about long COVID, which I understand she has said she has long COVID as well, and talk about how it can be remediated and talk about all other COVID injuries and treatments. Dr. Jordan Vaughn is another doctor from Alabama, and he's going to be talking about long COVID and blood clots. Now, a lot of the patients, they've seen these tremendously long, sticky blood clots since they've had the vaccine, not just COVID, but the vaccine. And finally, we have James Taylor, who's the president of the Heartland Institute. Some people may know about him. And his topic is going to be COVID policies, a trial run for future government control. So we're kind of got a little bit of variety there, a lot of medical people, but we also have two other speakers talking about the government and how it's going to control us in the future, particularly with healthcare.
And where's, again, so this is going to be taking place what date, David? What date and time? And is there a website or something that people can go and read up on what's going to be talked about to see if they want to attend?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Michael. Yes, it's October 13th and 14th. Dr. McCullough was speaking on Friday night, October 13th. And then we have an all-day event on October 14th. The package, it's cost $100 for the entire package, including lunch on Saturday. And if people want to purchase tickets or for more information, go to alaskacovidalliance.com. And there's a tab at the top that'll talk about the event in October. Just click on that tab and they can be able to purchase tickets. And we welcome everybody from both sides of the aisle. We welcome the healthcare community, and we mostly want patients to come and find out what's going to happen in the future and how to remediate some of the problems they're having with the COVID vaccines.
alaskacovidalliance.com, October 13th and 14th, evening and daytime, Friday night and Saturday. It'll be good, some good information. Now, I mean, just let me say, if you want to get the booster, if you want to get I'm fine. More power to you. Again, the whole thing for me has always been the unknown consequences, the unknown side effects of using a lot of these things. And I think a lot of the data has shown that was the right call for many of us who did it. And like, as you pointed out, there have been people who've gotten the shot and multiple boosters, and still, I have a friend that again, just last week was down horribly with COVID for 3 or 4 days, and she's on her 3rd or 4th booster at this point. So it does happen. We're all going to get it. I think that it is a dangerous disease. There's no doubt about it, but we need to be well informed as much as we can. So if you want to get it, great. But if you want more information, maybe get some alternative points of view, this is the place to go, alaskacovidalliance.com. Any final thoughts on this, David, before we go to break?
One final thought, as we've seen in the past that the government has collaborated with social media, the technocrats, and they use fear to control people, as you well know. It's not so much about the vaccine, but it's about the fear of getting COVID, et cetera. And we need to really inform people about the options. Like I got COVID last year. I have it this year. I got COVID last year. I took my ivermectin. The next day, I was fine. And, so the government has now come out with an emergency authorization for the new COVID, they call booster shot. And as I said, that booster shot only works on 3% of the strain that's out there now. So people, do not get your boosters. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
and please come to the event.
Yeah, there's lots of information out there. And yeah, some people have been fine. Some people have not been fine. You just don't want to, I don't feel like playing Russian roulette with my body for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? It's kind of where I'm at. I feel like I don't want to really spin the cylinder and point it at my head and hope that it's okay. All right, we're going to continue here. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. David Boyle is our guest. Up next, we're going to talk more about education. David's got an article in Must Read Alaska about the importance, specifically in Fairbanks this time, although I know he's watching all the school board races from around the state. We'll be back with more of The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break right now. David Boyle is our guest. We're about to, there we go. There we go. We're going to talk with David here in just a moment again about the school board elections going on in Fairbanks specifically, but around the state as well. We'll be talking about that. And yeah, I mean, if you feel comfortable getting the shot, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. What I have a problem with is when you are forced to do it through circumstance for your job or for, whatever. I mean, that's just it's not right, because there are verifiable side effects for certain people, and it's problematic. Let's just put it that way. Problematic. And there are other alternatives. Like I said, everybody that I know has pretty much gotten COVID at this point at least once. I had it once. And it's, it's scary. They did a lot. There was a lot of fear porn being peddled there in the early days on that thing. We had a lot of stuff going on. Anyway, we're going to continue that discussion, I'm sure, at a later date. But right now, we're going to move over to education, and we'll be talking about the school boards and things like that. David, I know this article is specifically talking about, let me post this article up in the chat room, first of all, for folks to follow along with. I know that you're talking specifically about Fairbanks. Are you following kind of all the races in the state, or what are you doing here?
No, I'm just right now. I'm just doing the Fairbanks one, but I did have a little bit of information this morning that the same thing is happening in the Matsu school board as well. The leftists, they're kind of running. I call them great pretenders, not being who they really are, but and they're being supported by the NEA teachers union as well. So they want to take over every school district in the state. They've done it in Anchorage. They've done it in Juneau. This is going to be a really close race, I do believe, in Fairbanks, because Fairbanks right now is kind of split. It's like 3-3, and then the president of the school board actually is kind of the swing vote at this time.
Right. No, it's Fairbanks is pretty much purple right now in most things. I mean, they've got a balance on the assembly of 5-4 on the conservative side, which is a first. It hasn't been that way for a while. They got that about 2 years ago. They ended up with that. So I think it's kind of a mixture in there. And of course, if they take over the yeah, you just mentioned the Matsu. We had a question last week from somebody who was asking about a specific candidate, and I don't remember their name right off the top of my head. But they said, yeah, this candidate told me that they're conservative choice. And then I found out that they are a past president of the NEA, and they are this and that. So they're saying, so there's, again, it's the deceptive practices of saying, oh no, I'm your conservative choice. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on.
Yeah, Michael, and regarding Fairbanks being purple, I think you could really turn it red if you just close the University of Alaska up there.
Well, yeah, like that's going to happen. But I mean, that is where much of that progressive thought is coming from that area and that side of town. And look, I mean, if it's a balance, I'm okay with it. It's when we were overwhelmed. I mean, when I left the assembly back in 2014, 2014. I mean, we had gone from being fairly balanced to basically, when I left, that left Lance Roberts on the assembly as the only conservative voice on the entire assembly out of 9 people. It was definitely a tough situation. So, hopefully people are paying closer attention to what's going on, and they're going to get out there and vote. They need to get out there and vote. They need to be informed and not just be calling you or me or whoever to get their information on election day. They should do a little bit of due diligence on that and figure out who the candidates are that they want to support ahead of time.
Yep.
All right. Turn Fairbanks red by devastating the Fairbanks economy. That's never going to happen, Harold. If you don't understand what hyperbole is, then I guess yeah, doesn't understand what it's a huge chunk of the economy there. We know that it was, again, It was a joke, Harold. It's one of those things. You have to figure that out. More Folgers is in order, apparently. All right. Let's see. We're about 40 seconds out and ready to get things going. Folks, if you would like to do me a favor and share the show, that would be amazing if you would share the show. Also, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube. That way you can get notifications when we go live, and it'd be nice to put some more folks on the YouTube channel as well. YouTube has got a little bit of a different interface. Some of the listeners have been going to YouTube now because of problems with Facebook, and whether they got banned or whether they just don't like the way that the chat interface works or anything else. So if you go over to YouTube, you can subscribe and ring the bell there. You'll get notifications when we go live every morning, and you can participate over there. Let's get back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show.
I'm fine.
Okay, continuing now. David Boyle is our guest. We're going to continue to talk with him. We just finished up talking about the whole COVID Alliance thing, but David, as I mentioned earlier, is a well-known name in circles of people who follow and advocate for education and for good education policy and change that makes sense. And he's written an article in Must Read Alaska talking about specifically the Fairbanks School Board and the attempt to take over in that regard. Now, David, I've talked specifically about this for a while, that if you want to capture a generation, then you change the schools to be what you want them to be. And the one race that we don't seem to be paying attention to in many cases across the state is really that lowest, I think they consider it the lowest public office, the lowest, is that school board. But it is important. So tell us what's going on in Fairbanks with the school board and the potential candidates that are there.
Well, today's school board in Fairbanks is pretty much a swing school board. There are like three on the left and let's say three on the right, and then the one member also is the swing vote usually. And from what I've seen before, it's usually the president of the school board that is the swing vote. But on October 3rd, there's a big school board election coming up, and we have three leftist candidates running. I mean, really leftist candidates running against three moderate to conservative candidates. The leftist candidates are Bobby Burgess, Meredith Maple, and Tim Duran. Tim Duran is currently on the board. He's probably center left, let's say. However, he's owned pretty much by the teachers union. He was a teacher and a principal for years in the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. So we know where his support comes from, teachers union, and he probably wants more and more money. That's the solution to everything. The moderate and conservative candidates, April Smith and Maggie Matheson, are the incumbents. And then we have a new person, Michael Humphrey, running as well. Usually, if you follow the money in these races, any of these races, you'll find out where these people's values and principles come from. And very interesting, the leftist candidates in the Fairbanks school board election have outraised the other candidates almost by a 2-to-1 margin. And a lot of that money, guess where it's coming from? It's coming from outside Alaska. And it's
Oh, wait, David. I thought that ballot measure number 2 was going to take care of dark money. I thought it was going to take care of all that stuff, right?
No, the money's getting even darker, Michael, as a result. The left is so much smarter and more nimble in doing what they do. They use a ballot measure 2 and I can't remember the Supreme Court case right now, but they're very nimble and they know how to use let's say, court decisions to the best of their ability. But anyway, there's a group which I hadn't been paying much attention to because I just don't like the APOC webpage. It's hard to find stuff. It's better than it used to be, but it's still difficult. There's a group called Putting Alaskans First Committee, and it's totally union, government union, and some of the labor unions as well. The NEA belongs to it. The American Federation of Teachers belongs to it. Matter of fact, the group that just gave money to fund the leftist candidates in Fairbanks is the Alaska State Employees Association, Local 52, the Political Action Committee. And, you know, they've given almost $2,000 to each one of the leftist candidates, Maple, Burgess, and Duran. Meanwhile, the conservative or moderate candidates are falling way behind, and money makes a big difference when it comes to things like this. They've got their union army out there knocking on doors in Fairbanks, and that's a huge plus for them. But most of the money, as I said, for Putting Alaskans First Committee comes from outside Alaska. And here's a quote from the website where it says, a majority of the contributions came from outside the state of Alaska. We have money coming from Washington, D.C.
Right. Well,
the
and
United.
I think it's important to read this thing. Top 3 contributors to the Putting Alaska's First Committee. Top 3 contributors are Unite America PAC of Denver, Colorado, Lunia Political Fund of Washington, D.C., and NEA Advocacy Fund of Washington, D.C. A majority of contributions to Putting Alaska's First Committee came from outside the state of Alaska. That's required by law, that disclaimer. But it just shows, again, $20,000 or more being put through from these outside political. I mean, this is a school board race in Fairbanks, Alaska. Why would organizations in D.C. And Colorado and other places want to affect what's going on there? What's at stake here?
Well, there's a lot of at stake because the indoctrination of our youth, for one thing, and this is not just happening in, let's say, Fairbanks, Alaska, and the rest of the school districts in Alaska. This is a nationwide effort to control what's happening in the future. I really fear for this country. You know, we've seen the young kids are out, you know, Antifa, et cetera, and the demonstrators, the radical environmentalists, which is the brand new religion today. They've indoctrinated the children in this. And boy, it's tough to turn them around against, for example, fossil fuels, because they all have been indoctrinated in environmentalism and clean energy. So once these kids get out into the workforce and start voting, we're going to be overwhelmed by, let's say, socialist and Marxist type philosophy. So this is what the left does. They're really good at what they do. They start with the young. And, you know, we conservatives and let's say the Republican Party, for what it's worth, we don't do that. And then we wonder what happened. So school board elections are, to me, more important than local assembly elections, because that's the future voters. And they're the ones that are going to control the state and the country as a whole. But so we have these 3 candidates, the leftists, I call them candidates, Burgess, Meredith, and Duran, being funded by these outside interests. And like I said, it's not just happening in Fairbanks, it's happening throughout the entire nation. So these leftist candidates, they're not even saying who they are. They're running a pretender campaign. If you go to their web pages, it says nothing. It's like motherhood and apple pie. The only thing they have in common is the solution to the problems with K-12 education is more funding. So we know they're pretty closely allied with the NEA and some of our, let's say, state legislators.
Well, because that fits into the narrative, right? I mean, that's the narrative right now that, you know, we're being flat funded. That's a favorite talking point. We're being flat funded. We're doing this, we're doing that. It's always the only answer, of course, is more money. Even though if you analytically look at what's been going on in the school system, you could see that it's not producing a good product. We just, again, talked last week about The number of students that have to go in for remedial math and other things to be able to to even attend college, to be able to get even into a 100 level class, they have to, spend thousands of dollars with tutors to get these kids up to speed. And yet their answer is, well, we just need more money for what's going on. We've had ever increasing amounts of more money poured into the system, and it's still delivering substandard stuff. I mean, how is this going to fix it?
Well, money, whenever you start funding a bureaucracy with more money, what happens is you get more waste and inefficiencies, and because they use it to build up the administration and the bureaucracies, and they just throw money at things that don't affect the student outcomes and academics. Excuse me again. Now, we have Mr. Burgess, Bobby Burgess, running against April Smith, Mr. Burgess being the leftist. He showed up at the last school board meeting on September 5th in Fairbanks wearing a mask. Now, if he's wearing a mask right now and he's on a school board, do you think he's going to mandate masking for kids next year? Hey, I'll put money on it that he is. And then excuse me again, all you have to do, if you want to figure out who to vote for, look at who the teachers union endorses. They've endorsed Burgess, Duran, and Maple. That's not in the best interest of Fairbanks citizens and Fairbanks children, because all they're going to do is say, hey, we want more equity and inclusion, and we want more funding. And by the way, those three leftist candidates support diversity, equity, and inclusion, and gender identity. Another individual running, Meredith Maple, is running against Maggie Matheson, the incumbent. It's very interesting. She's married to a person called Kel Gitter, who just happened to be a female in 2013. And I found a quote from the Fairbanks Daily Newsminer in 2013 that says, and by the way, Meredith Maple does not disclose this on her webpage. She calls Kelly Gitter her husband. So here's a quote from the Fairbanks Daily Newsminer in 2013. Kelly Gitter's shoelaces were frozen and her socks were wet after she played for the first time in the Springfest rugby tournament on Saturday. So having transitioned to a male, end quote, Gitter and his wife, Maple, are raising their adopted child. So, why not disclose that? Are you trying to hide it?
Well, because there'll be a whole thing about gender equity and trans kids and everything else in there. That'll be another. I mean, that's why they don't disclose it, because they know it'll cause a fervor. Maybe they can sneak it in under the radar.
And if Meredith Maple's on the school board, guess what? She's going to support hiding gender ID, pronoun usage, and transgender from parents, which, by the way, my way of feeling is against federal law. But one of the statements on her webpage should tell voters everything they need to know. Quote, pre-K programming not only prepares students for kindergarten, but also improves their lives permanently. I have a real problem with that word programming. And she believes it's the responsibility of the teachers to program children, not the parents. So, parents, you need to take a back seat if you want to vote for Meredith Maple.
All right, Dave, we got to wrap things up here. The three candidates that should be supported, in your opinion, the three candidates, Michael Humphrey, April Smith, and Maggie Matheson?
That's correct. And if you want to hold the school board accountable and you want to be fiscally responsible and you want to focus on academics and how teaching children how to read versus gender ID, transgender, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I personally, if I lived in Fairbanks, would vote for Humphrey, Smith, and Maggie Matheson.
All right. Are you gonna be looking at the other areas before the election, Dave, or what are we doing here?
Well, I'm going to work on the Mat-Su next, Michael, and it's really tough sometimes to find out information. So if anybody listening has information on the Mat-Su, please either message me or give me a call at 907-444-4970. I appreciate any tips.
All right, David Boyle, thank you so much for coming on board and being part of it today. We appreciate you coming in. Enjoy your time down there in Colorado. I hope you start feeling better.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thanks for what you do on your show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to you coming back here later and talking with us again. David Boyle, our guest, The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. More ahead in just a moment. No, you wonder why they hide that stuff. Like, well, no surprise why they're going to hide the fact that they're married to a woman is her husband or whatever. I mean, of course you're going to hide that stuff. Of course you're going to pull you don't want people, because maybe you'll pull a few more people if they don't know that this is all part and parcel of that whole thing right now. Of course you wouldn't know that. That would make sense. All right, I got to do the top of the hour refresh here, so you guys are gonna lose me here on the feed for just a second as I refresh the browser and. Into the studio, and there you go. What's going on? He's visiting Colorado, Harold, for apparently, pay attention, my son. He's visiting Colorado. He lives here in Anchorage, so he lives down in Anchorage. So, but you make your own assumptions. You are free to do that. Make it all work. All right. Bureaucracy now, says Brian. Bureaucracy now. All right. Let's see. People, saying if we should have teachers and principals on the school board. And Jeannie says, I don't think people from the echo chamber are good candidates. I would agree with that. They also have a vested interest. There's in many ways a direct conflict of interest there because they're directing the policies that they themselves would have to live under. I think it's a conflict of interest, quite honestly. But again, that's just my humble opinion. Let's see. Dark. Willie says dark money. Yeah, no. It's good stuff. All right. Okay. I think we're all caught up. I have a couple of neighbors who reliably vote for the party's approved candidates. So when I in doubt, I vote the opposite. Yeah, I mean, somebody said just look at who's that? I think Jim just said look at the editorials in the Newsminer and do the opposite. I mean, you're not wrong as far as a pretty surefire way to know that you're going to be voting for the right side of an issue is if you're looking at the editorial boards from the Newsminer or for the ADN and doing the opposite. You're probably doing the right thing. You're probably okay, but that's no excuse. You should be, in fact, getting the lowdown and the scoop and getting the information on all the various candidates and doing your own due diligence on it. Like I said, I don't mind answering those and fielding those phone calls on election day. I mean, what did Brian say earlier? Something like, no. Call me when you're in the voting booth and I'll tell you who to vote for. I mean, sometimes you feel a little bit like that. But, I don't mind fielding those questions, but sometimes I wish people would take a little more responsibility in finding the information that, again, if you want to call me, if you have my phone number, if you want to call me and ask me who to vote for, I'll do my best to have the information for you. But, do your own due diligence. Again, a reminder for you guys out on the KPB, they're not gonna mail voter pamphlets to you. You guys either have to go down to the city hall or wherever and get it yourself, or you have to go on to the website and download it and look for it yourself. So there you go. Jennifer says in Fairbanks, she says, call me in Fairbanks. She says, call me. She'll tell you who to vote for. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Here we go.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out themichaeldukesshow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show. Streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning. It's Monday. If you couldn't tell at the end of I apologize. I'm working on about 3.5 hours sleep today. And I looked away from the clock for just a minute and I accidentally let the guest run over the last hour. And so we had an abrupt go to commercial, and I apologize. That's unprofessional of me. I shouldn't have done that, but I'm sorry. I looked away and looked back up, and I was like, wow, that was a fast 2.5 minutes. So anyway, I apologize for that. We're back, though, continuing our discussions for whatever we want to talk about here in hour 2. We just talked to David Boyle about schools and school boards and how important it is to pay attention to what's going on there. And as I was just telling the chat room here during the top of the hour break, it's up to you. You have no room to complain and gripe and whine if you don't get educated on who is up for election in your jurisdiction. Remember, the 3rd of October for the peninsula, for the valley, for the interior is going to be the big municipal election. And that's the time to really pay attention. And specifically down on the peninsula, the voter pamphlets, which are normally historically have been mailed out to all registered voters, are not being mailed this year. They are instead they're only available for either pickup at the city halls, the borough building, city hall, or you can go online and view the PDF of it online, which is what I did. I went through and read about some of the candidates just because I was curious as to what the candidates would say in their statement and to see if I could pull information out and see if I could read between the lines, so to speak, to see which candidate has been, which candidate is which candidate is more liberal, which candidate is more conservative. And I think for the most part, you can read between the lines and see those things. But yeah, it's going to be a very, very busy season. And you can do more good by affecting what's going on in your local community than you ever could at the national level. So, I mean, I'm not paying attention to the impeachment or the trials or the grand jury indictments, or those things happen and I see them in the background, but I am definitely not focusing on any of that. I'm focusing on what is going on in our local community. And yeah, in Fairbanks, early voting starts today. I don't know about the Matsu. I don't know about the Kenai Peninsula Borough, but Early voting should start soon. And again, election day on October the 3rd. So I hope you guys are all paying attention and getting all the knowledge that you can to make all this work. All right. So the second half of the hour, I was going to have a guest that was going to be joining me, but they got called away, so unable to do it. We'll be talking about the creation of a new federal digital currency. There's a move afoot to be part of that and to play into that market. And I was going to have a guest come on to talk with us about it, and they got called away. So hopefully next week or two, we'll be able to have them back on and to talk about the creation of this currency, the pros, the cons, what's going on, what's happening with it. And so we'll be paying close attention to that. Look forward to that. Tomorrow on the program, it's going to be Brad Keithley. Chris Story is going to have to be moved to Wednesday, and we'll see where we go. We'll see where we go from here. But we're gonna be shuffling some people around. Nick Begich is going to be joining us on Thursday, and so we've already got some of the guests lined up for this week, and we'll have more as we get closer to it. But that's what's going on. But today it's open line, open forum, and headlines. So anything that you want to talk about that is, if you want to talk about education, if you wanted to talk about, we talked a little bit about the COVID Alliance thing in the beginning, you want to talk about that. Anything else that's come up over the weekend, or something that's just, you have this burning issue in your heart, you may want to see a doctor about that. You can give us a call right now at 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. I'd love to hear from you. Just give us a shout, and we'll talk with you and see what you guys have to say about any topic. So any topic today, absolutely wide open, from politics to religion to movies. The three things you're not supposed to talk about. No, wait, that last one is supposed to be something else. But whatever you want to talk about, we can chat about it right now. Again, 907-433-3150. Or send me an email, me@michaeldukeshow.com, me@michaeldukeshow.com. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Just smile and dial, will you? Just smile and dial, and we'll chit chat with you this morning about whatever. I got this GoFundMe request that I wanted to make an announcement about. Abby Hatfield is organizing a GoFundMe event for James Burks, whose family is coordinating with the Minto VPSO's office in an effort to find James after his boat was found capsized in the mouth of the Tolovana River on last Tuesday. So they found the boat, but they didn't find James. And so they're asking to help funding the search effort. They're doing a search and rescue. And so they're looking for a little bit of help with that. I've got a GoFundMe link, which I'm going to go ahead and post up in the chat room, so that folks, if you feel so inclined to donate for local people, now is the time to do it. I'll post that link up in the chat room, so you can go out there and look at, or you can just go to GoFundMe and look for Support the Burke Family, BURK, Support the Burke Family. I can't imagine anything worse than not knowing the fate of your loved one. And so hopefully they can raise enough money to put together a search and rescue team to go out and see if they can find him out there on the thing. So anyway, I posted it up. The link's in the chat room. It was on my heart when I read it this morning. And so I thought I would throw that out there. Okay. Headlines. Who's got your headlines? Well, I do. Here you go. The annual boost to the bank account is just around the corner. That would be the first PFD. The first payments are going to be coming out in just a little over 2 weeks. 2 weeks. The first PFD payments will be deposited on October the 5th, Thursday the 5th. Unlike the 2022 payment, which had that untaxable energy rebate, The entirety of the 2023 PFD is going to be taxable income, so you're going to make sure you're going to get a 1099 MISC from the state when you do that. The Alaska legislature approved a state budget on the first day of the May special session that allows for a permanent fund dividend payment of $1,300. The division has not announced any alterations or anything else, so $1,300 as of right now is the magic number that you'll see in 2 weeks. If you had filled out your electronic application, including all your banking information and your direct deposit by, was it March 31st, I think, then and have been approved, then you should be good to go. You need to have requested the direct deposit and need to have applications with the status eligible not paid on their My Alaska account by September 21st, which is just in a couple days away. So if you haven't checked your My Alaska account, you might want to do that. And so they will receive your direct deposit on October 5th. Those of you who did not jump into the direct deposit bandwagon, my first question is, why not? Why, but if you want to get that check, Randy, if you want to get that check, it's going to be mailed out a couple weeks later. They'll be distributed on October 26th, along with any payments from 2022 that have not been issued. A provision in the budget, if you remember, calls for an additional payment in 2024 if the oil produced in Alaska's exceed the projected value of $73 per barrel. Now, if that occurs, the revenue split will be split 50-50 with the state and eligible PFD recipients, with a payment capped at about $500 and looking pretty good so far. The daily value of a barrel has dipped below the $73 threshold only 8 times this year. And so if they exceed that projected value of $73, we could get an additional $500, but that would not come until next year. So just that's that sliding scale that Bert Stedman, that magnificent walrus, he put in there to appease everybody who was like the 75-25 is wrong. Well, fine. And of course, I don't think he expected it to continue to run the way it has, but it'll be fine. So maybe we'll get another $500 per person next year. We just never know at this point, but we'll be watching it and paying attention. Okay, we got more coming up. I see Ben Carpenter there's a mosquito in the chat. How in the world did a mosquito get in here in the studio? I thought they were all dead. All right, we got more coming up. I see Ben Carpenter's in the chat room, and we'll see what he has to say here in the chat room here in a second and talk about some other things as well. We have got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't forget, you can come out and join us on Facebook if you'd like, or any of the other rooms, but Facebook's pretty easy. Facebook.com/Michael Dukes Show/live. Come on out and be part of it with us. We'll be back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Hello, my friends. Hello. So what guns are people going to buy? That's what Brian said. I'm not buying any guns. Evil guns. I'm not going to do that. Representative Carpenter says, replace incumbent KPBSD school board members. Current members are most responsible for the current state of our schools. Change won't happen without new thinking. I agree with that. I mean, feel free, by the way, Ben, to call in if you want to give your thoughts on how how the crafting of the of the policy by the school board has affected education today. I think a lot of people just not paying attention to it. I mean, again, the school boards are the lowest office in the state. They're an afterthought. I can't even think about. They're like, oh, who was I voting for? I don't know. Half the time it's a guess, I think, for some people. They're just picking either the incumbent because they're in there, or they're picking a name, at random. They got a 50-50 chance of, get it. We'll just pick a name at random. I think that's the way it is a lot of times. I think that's how it goes. Buy your ivermectin before the next run, says Jim. Okay. I mean, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I take my vitamin D, I take my zinc, I take my my vitamin C, I take all the vitamins that I'm supposed to and everything else. I got COVID and I was sick, deathly sick, not deathly, but I felt really crappy for a day and a half. And I was back. In fact, I never even took time off work. I literally worked from home the day. I worked from home for 2 days, and then I was back out at it not too long after. By the end of that week, it was all good. Jeremy says he's buying a new snowblower. Are you buying a gas snowblower or are you buying a battery-powered snowblower? That's my question. That seems to be the new trick thing. Everybody's like, oh, all these battery-powered things. And they work pretty slick. I got a buddy that's got a battery-powered snowblower, and he's pretty happy with it. But, I mean, are you going battery or gas? Do you live off the grid? So probably gas, I would imagine. But, I mean, I don't know. You tell me. See what's going on. Okay. See, I'm looking back here at anything else that you guys talked about that I missed. Sandy says, why aren't the state troopers actively searching for Jim Burke? I don't know. I don't know. I saw that. It came across my email feed. I want folks to, if they want to get a chance to go out and support it, they can. If not, I don't know the full details. I suppose you probably could go to the GoFundMe page and they probably explain that. Vote Lindsay Bertoldo for KPBSD board member. Is what Chris said. And I see that Lindsay, that her husband is also running for assembly, right? So she's running for the school board. Her husband's running for assembly. They both sound like pretty conservative folks based on their statements that they made in their thing. So that's good. There you go. Wow. Jim was a little salty about this. Buy battery operated gear. Keep the cobalt mines in Africa open. It's for the children. The new child slavery. Oh man. And I was right. Jeremy says he's going to get the new gas Toro Pow snowblower. He doesn't have to change anything. So there you go. All right. Well, good. Well, there you go. Protection gun, says Audrey. Protection gun. Yeah, I know. That's what I need. That's all I have. That's all I have is protection guns. No murder guns for me. No killer guns. Just protection guns. All right. Well, we're coming up on the next break. Coming up from the next break, and we're going to open up the lines. I got some headlines, but if you guys again want to talk about anything, and Ben, if you want to call in and tell us how that works, the synergies between the legislature and the school boards, and I mean, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. Let's get back to it. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. We We are back on this Funday Monday. I'm still trying to wake up. Still trying to wake up. For those of you who missed it, I don't know. I just laid in bed last night. Last time I looked at the clock, it was almost 12:30, and I was like, "This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The alarm's going to go off in 4 hours, and I'm just, and I finally fall asleep, and the alarm wakes. It's just so rude, so rude. I do not want to adult today. Be the first to tell you. I'm just definitely definitely do not want to adult today. All right, we're continuing on. The phone lines are open. If you would love to, if I would love you, I would love you. I would love you anyway. But if you feel like you'd like to call in and talk about anything, let's hit it. 907-433-3150 is the phone number. You are welcome to join us in discussing and talking about all the things that you want to talk about today. We got some more stories that are going on, and we will just keep hitting those as we go through. I saw this story it came up on the Alaska Beacon. And what really caught my attention, first of all, is the picture in the story. I know I'm easily entertained. Just give me the books with pictures. That's all I want. Just give me the books with pictures. But I looked at this. That's what originally caught my eye, was the picture. Because the picture is of the Alaska State Offices building. And in Juneau. I'm sorry, the Alaska State Offices building in Juneau. And for those of you who haven't looked at this thing, it looks like something that would have been built in Cold War era Russia. I mean, this thing is, brutalism, right? I mean, it is just an ugly building. I'm sorry, that's just a personal sidebar. Has nothing to do with the commentary on the story or anything else. But I look at this picture and I'm just like, that is a ugly building. It is so ugly. Anyway, I'm gonna post the story up in the chat room so that we can talk about it here for just a second. Anyway, the story reads that Alaska begins the process for examining workers' pay for competitiveness, because the answer is always more money, right? That's what we need. We need more money. If we had more money for schools, if we had more money for employees, if we had more money in retirement, if we had all these things, that would fix our problems. And so I guess they're going to put it to the test. They're got an RFP going out seeking a contractor to perform a comparison between state pay in Alaska, pay in the private sector, and pay amongst other government entities. We'll talk about some details in that here in just a second, but I see that we have a phone call. So let's start off over here and see what it's all about. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Michael. This is Linda Boyle, the quiet half of the David Boyle-Linda Boyle combo.
Good morning,
Colorado. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Linda. I'm doing good. What's on your mind? What's on your mind today?
So what's on my mind truly is I am so passionate about this COVID Alliance, Alaska COVID Alliance. And I hope that you've read some of my articles that I've written for Must Read Alaska concerning COVID and the vaccines, what they call the vaccines, and where the country's going. One of my main concerns I have is the spike protein is something, unfortunately, when you get the shot, it's with you for the rest of your life. Both David and I took the first 2 shots. I'm a nurse by background. I believed what I read. I believed what I heard. I thought it was best for our family that we did that. And so now I'm looking at what's the effect of that and what can I do about that in the future. There's some great people coming up to talk about that and also talk about how to handle long COVID. The other thing that's kind of scary to me is Dr. Nass is going to be talking about WHO, the World Health Organization. Sorry. And, that particular group is looking at taking our sovereignty from us and telling each country in this world how to respond to pandemics and telling you when you're going to be put into lockdowns, et cetera, et cetera. And our government's looking at potentially joining in on that. So that's another thing that's kind of scary to me. And then you add to that the fact that I believe the COVID policies had helped them figure out how to control us in the future. And I'm very much afraid that that's what the country's going to be doing. So I do want people to come to the COVID Alliance meeting, and I appreciate your skepticism. I certainly understand that. I just thought I'd call and let you know what I thought.
Well, I mean, the whole thing that I'm skeptical is I don't
Hello?
believe. I'm sorry. Hold. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that, Linda. I just look. Here's what I'm skeptical of. I'm skeptical that Americans will stand for another round of lockdowns or shutdowns or mask mandates or everything, especially after the latest, the latest scientific thing that came out that basically said masks did nothing. And they even, that was even
Yes.
acknowledged by Fauci
Yep.
that masks did very little. And so while I definitely would like to know more about what the lasting impacts are of some of the vaccines and is there, a problem there and everything else. I don't buy into the theory that all these shutdowns are going to occur and they're going to try and control it, because I just don't think people will stand for it. I just think people are like, I'm over it. If I get COVID, I get COVID. I've had COVID, or what. I think most people have probably had it at this point. I think most people will be like, no, not
That's
interested in participating in that madness again. So they may think that they have it all figured out, that they learned a lot in how to control people and do all that kind of stuff. I think they'll get a real lesson if they attempt to do those kind of shutdowns again.
That would be great. I think the other so if people keep on getting shots, there's been research on that also, that the more COVID vaccines that you've had, the more susceptible you are to getting COVID. So that's just another piece of it. I think people just need to be aware of some of these things. The one doctor coming from Alabama, he has done a lot of work on blood clots, and he has a long COVID clinic where you actually have to treat people with blood clotting medications, to help them not clot their blood so much because of the vaccine. So there really is a lot of good information that's going to be coming to Alaska. I'm excited about the group that we're bringing up, and I'm excited about what they're going to bring to us to let us know about how to take care of ourselves better.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you listening to me, Michael.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Enjoy your vacation down in Colorado, and we'll see you. I appreciate it. We enjoy your vacation down in Colorado, and we will see you when you get back. Thank you so much for calling in and joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. All right. Phone lines are open, 907-433-3150. As I said, any topic is fair game. If you want to pick things up and talk about it, whatever it is, I'm happy to hear what you have to say on that. All right. So this request for proposal for this comparison, the comparison is going to include 404 different jobs, including positions as varied as prison guards, archaeologists. There are state archaeologists? Wow. Ferry workers, tax auditors, and the people in charge of regulating the accuracy of gas pumps and grocery store scales. This is an $800,000 contract. It's going to be issued on November the 15th, and the request calls for a final report to be delivered no later than June 30th of 2024, and that would allow for any recommendations to be incorporated into the budget process for 2025, the following year. During the spring legislative session, the lawmakers had heard extensive testimony about how short-staffed the state is, and they budgeted $1 million for the survey. As of Thursday, there were still, because the hiring is still pretty tough. For example, the executive branch, just the executive branch, 15,650 positions in the executive branch. Only 13,200 were filled. Man, that's a lot of people just in the executive branch. That's 85% fill rate. So they're trying to figure out, what is it? Is it pay? Is it retirement? Is it how does it compare? Historically, state officials have labeled a salary competitive if it's better than 65% of the state's private sector and public sector competitors. Anything at least 10% above or below is considered misaligned. So, and they're going to use Anchorage as the baseline for the measurement. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. If it's better than 65% of the private sector and public sector competitors, okay. I remember the day when you made a lesser salary, but you got your gold-plated benefits, so it was all okay. I mean, that was the push for it when it was all said and done. All right, let's go back over to the phones and see what you guys have to say. We'll go back over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Carlene in Kodiak.
Good morning.
Going back to David Boyle's talk on the COVID, I was wondering if perhaps you could have somebody come onto the program after Dr. McCullough has spoken in Anchorage. I have his curriculum vitae here, and I hear him often on different radio programs. So this is a really important topic. And on Town Hall News, somewhere around August 4th, 5th, or 6th, somewhere there, they said that the long COVID, about 30% of the people that get COVID get the long COVID. And so this is a big deal. I've had COVID since January 2nd, and I've slept 3 days and 3 nights just this week alone. And it is a big deal.
Right.
So maybe somebody could tell us how to remediate that.
Yeah, no, maybe I'll reach out to David and Linda and see if I can get, maybe we can get some contact and bring Dr. McCullough on to talk about it. I know that there's been several people that I know that have had lingering repercussions from COVID. And so a couple people I know have got it multiple times this year alone. So definitely it wouldn't be a bad thing to do because it can be scary. It is if you do get it, it can be bad. Not for everybody, but for some people especially, it can be bad and have long-term effects. So yeah, it wouldn't be bad to have Dr. McCullough on to talk about it, see if we can get him on the program maybe.
That would be wonderful.
All right, Carlene. Well, I hope you feel better, and I appreciate you listening, and thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time, okay?
Yes, bye now.
All right, thanks. Carlene calling in from Kodiak, which leaves one of the lines open at 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. Well, something's got to be done in the state to try and attract or keep our kids, right? I mean, we've talked about whether it's the university, whether about it's voc ed, whether it's opportunity, whether it's getting government out of the way and more. A new study proves that is more important than ever. This new study, James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon is writing about it. And it's got some interesting details. I think it even made me raise my eyebrow a little bit when I was reading some of the details of this. We'll get into that here in just a moment. But before we do, we've got another phone call, so we'll go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael. It's Elena from Anchor Point. How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Oh, hanging in there. Well, you were touching on the topic last week about college education, and it ties in, I believe, with the employment issue that we're having these days. For example, I grew up in Texas, and my father ran a restaurant business for years before he had to close it down. And then one of his jobs after that was the county nutrition director for where we were living. He was just merely the substitute, the temporary director there until they found somebody who could take the position. All because my father did not have a college education. But within the first 3 months of him having that job, he saved the county over $10,000. He was replaced by somebody who had a degree in sociology, and he cost the county more money. I know some jobs, as you had discussed last week, and I fully agree, need a college education. But there are some that do not, I feel that they do not, that is. And some of these jobs and these employers are still requiring that. A lot of people these days don't have that, or they, went to school and they stopped for one reason or another, and they have so many hours. I think that's part of our problem. And if these employers can go back, if they can go back and reevaluate exactly what they need for requirements, and maybe instead of a college degree or partial hours, look at their life experiences as a qualification for the job that they're applying for.
Yeah, and
I think that might help the issue, but this is just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's happening right now. I mean, that's what's happening in many ways. Many organizations are now reevaluating whether or not they should require a college degree for that very reason, because there are qualified candidates out there that just don't happen to have some kind of degree and in some cases, some of these jobs, it's like, well, they don't have any, they don't care what your degree is in. They just want you to have a degree. It's like they showed that you could tough it out kind of thing, or that you could take the punishment of college, et cetera, et cetera. But many businesses are starting to look at that and realize you don't have to have a degree to be able to be good at your job. And sometimes it's on the job training. Sometimes it's a history of apprenticeship. It just depends on what it is.
Oh, I know, but like in my father's case, here he, managed restaurants. At one time, he had 5 different restaurants across the city where we live. Eventually had to close them down due to staffing himself and rent going up and whatnot. But he saves the county $10,000. He does a better job of directing everything, which one of the programs that he ran was the Meals on Wheels. And the guy that, replaced him wasn't even qualified. Lay the degree aside for that one gentleman.
Right.
He had no experience in managing anything.
Well, and
budget-wise, employees, nothing.
Right. Well, and again, I think that shows. Yeah, no, I think that shows the difference between somebody who's had to run a budget and live by a budget, somebody who's had to manage employees, who's had to make a dollar work, who's had to turn a profit. That's where, the public enterprises, public sector things could benefit from having entrepreneurs come in there and do that. Like you said, 3 months, he saved him $10,000. He found efficiencies because it wasn't just about waste. The new guy shows up, he doesn't know anything. Well, that's going to be a whole different deal. And I think that's exactly, you make a valid point. And I think, like I said, I think a lot of businesses are starting to see that as well. Hey, I appreciate your call. Thank you so much for coming in and being part of it today. I got to go, though. We got more coming up. One final segment dead ahead. We'll talk about that exfil from Alaska and what could be done to fix it. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, let me get caught up here in the chat room. See what you guys are saying. See what's going on here. Okay. Get the okay. Like petting fuzzy cows. Blah 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 blah. It's easy. Jim says it's easy for me to talk tough about non-compliance when I'm sitting on my couch watching TV. We'll see what happens when they start again. Yeah, I mean it is easier to talk about it, but again, I never shut down during the COVID, the first COVID thing. I mean, we were an essential industry. Radio is an essential industry anyway, but we never shut down. We never, did any of those things. And again, I think now that people can see the ramifications of it, the unknown ramifications, what they didn't know at the beginning, because remember, I mean, this was all about the fear. I mean, people, you're going to die, right? You're going to die. And while it's true that COVID is and can be a dangerous virus and dangerous disease, it turned out that the number of people who died, that it was lower than what they anticipated. I mean, they really, really pumped up the fear factor on that, hoping to minimize it. And I think in the long run, it's backfired, whether it's the lost years of schooling for the children, the irreparable harm that was done to many businesses, the hypocrisy of many of the politicians who are calling for their cities to be shut down, and then we're off scene attending dinners and getting their hair cut and everything else. The do what I say, not what I do kind of thing. I think that if it came around again, I think it would be a totally different thing. Now, he also makes the point, unless you're self-employed, job mandates are hard to ignore. So if your job says you must get the COVID vaccine, yeah, I mean, I could see that. It's a tough decision. I was just very thankful as I watched all that stuff go through. I was very thankful that I myself was not faced with that problem where they said you have to get vaccinated. I'm glad I wasn't. I'm glad I didn't have to face that decision. That would be a very, very hard decision for people who had to make the choice of, do I give in and capitulate, or do I change jobs? And in some cases, especially people in the medical industry, there was not another job that you could take that didn't mandate it in the long run. It's scary. It's scary. All right. At this point, what difference does it make? Okay. Going through here to see what's going on here. Whoopee. Brian. What, Brian? What? Whoopee. We're all going to die. He says, I maintain the cure was far worse than the disease. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. And in fact, I think you could look at other countries that did not have the massive amounts of lockdowns that we did, and their numbers are, again, comparable to what we did. So did we really save anything, or did we just do more? Was it more of a self-inflicted wounds? It's interesting to see what's going on there. Interesting medical. What? Medical universities are soliciting long-haul COVID and chronic Lyme people for studies. Both bioweapon Lyme disease? I don't know. Lyme disease is not a bioweapon. What? I'm confused. I'm confused by your comment has confused me. We'll see what's going on here. All right. I think that's pretty much all the good comments. I mean, it's all good comments. Yeah, Debbie says, she's talking about the building, the state capitol building. I agree. Went to the Capitol and saw this, and it's so very dirty. It looks moldy. I mean, yeah, you look at the outside of the building, and it's just like, first of all, it's all big and gray and brutal and concrete. It looks like a bunker with windows. And then on top of it, it's got all this scuzz and scum on the outside of it. You're like, man, show a little pride in what you're doing. It's just like, wow, this thing is oof. All right. I got this study to talk about, and phone calls and more. We're ready to go. Like and share, like and follow, do all the YouTube-y things and get ready to go. Let's get to it, shall we? The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It's Monday. I might go back to bed after this. I'm not really, but I wish. I could go back to bed after this. All right. Here we go. Ding. That's it. Here we go. Okay, and we are ready. One final segment of the big radio show this morning. we are ready to get into it and to do the final cleanup here for today's program. Coming up tomorrow on the program, Brad Keithley will be joining us for hour 1 of the show. Hour 2, Chris Story is actually traveling, and I think he's going to be with us on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens there. We should have Mike Shower as well. And on Thursday, Nick Begich III should be joining us. So busy time. Busy time this week. See if we can fill up the rest of those slots, and we will continue. All right. So before the break, I was talking about how do we retain more Alaskans? How do we keep them in Alaska? How do we keep people who were born here, the kids, the children? How do we keep them here in Alaska? Now, I've been lucky so far in my household. I have 5 children, and only one of them is left. She got married, and her husband was in the military, so they traveled a while, and now they've situated themselves down in Florida, of all places. Florida. Oh, man. But it's okay. So she's outside with the family and everything else. But I got 4 other kids, so we're beating the track record so far because this new data is out talking about how many Alaskans, how are we doing at keeping and making the state, what did they say, sticky? Well, there was a study. And it was an analysis of the U.S. Census Bureau data published by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Government money funding more government. Anyway, more than half of Alaskans born within the state have moved away. The state's ability to retain native-born residents, according to James Brooks from the Alaska Beacon, is an indicator of its economic health and attractiveness. And Alaska ranked near the bottom of the analysis conducted by the University of North Florida professor Madeline Zavodny. Using data from the Census Bureau's 2021 community survey, they found Alaska retained only 48.7% of those born inside of its borders. We were only trailed by Wyoming and North Dakota. That was it, and it was close with North Dakota. It was 1/10% difference between Alaska and North Dakota. Now, at the opposite end of the scale, Texas retained 82% of its native-born residents, followed by North Carolina, Georgia, California, and Utah. The study noted that the 5 stickiest states, those able to keep their residents, each had above-average job growth between 2010 and 2019, and 4 of the top 5 states had below-average levels of taxation. You think there's a corollary there? I don't know. 4 out of 5, maybe 4 out of 5 can't be wrong. The new study corroborates a familiar trend here in Alaska where the number of people moving out of the state has exceeded the number of new residents for 10 consecutive years. So, what does it take to keep people here, to make them available for the workforce? What does it take? I think there has to be more technical, vocational training. I think there has to be less onerous regulations. You want to create businesses and industries where people want to stay. We need to get the government out of the way of those things. So I think all of those are prime examples of things that we need to do to try and bring that other. The Department of Labor's next scheduled population and migration estimates are due in January. So we'll see how we did over the summer. But I have a feeling that if the trend continues, it's still not going to be great. It's not going to be good. All right, let's continue over to the phone lines right now and see what you guys have to say in the last couple minutes of the show. We'll start off over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
That's Bob and Seward.
Morning, Bob. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Hey, hunting this fall, we encountered an issue with drones. They seem to follow us around, and every time we found moose, we were out there busting our butts looking for these moose, and every time we found them, these guys come crashing in with their wheelers. This is up in Delta Junction, and every time it was like they knew that the moose were there because they used drones. We actually saw the drones flying more than once. And every time that was flying where we were at, and they were honing in on where the moose were back there, and then they would send the other individuals who go crashing back in there with their wheelers through the brush, irregardless of trail or anything else. They were just going right out, firing right out through the brush, and it was just so disappointing to see this criminal element up there in Delta that was doing that. And they need up the penalties for doing that, so that there is some consequences for it.
Yeah,
no chance.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's already, I know that it's the same day fly rule. If you have an airplane, if you see a moose or spot a moose, you can't hunt for the same day that you're flying, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this should be the same kind of thing for the drones, if that's the case, especially if there's other hunters in the area that are tracking it or whatever. That is definitely not and I don't even know, I don't think it's legal to use drones to hunt, is it? I mean, I don't know. I haven't hunted in quite a few years, but yeah, go ahead.
It's not legal to use them to hunt, but these guys don't care. I mean, they're just out there, and the penalty isn't enough, apparently, or the chances of getting caught. I mean, I tried calling enforcement, I think 6 times up there, and never got an answer. Nobody picked the phone up.
Wow. Well, Bob, that's horrific, and you're right. It shouldn't happen. And I mean, the penalties are there for a reason. I mean, I remember some of those penalties. They could take, if they wanted to, they could take all the gear that you were using on the hunt, including your 4-wheelers and your equipment and your boats or whatever it is. So maybe the penalty, needs to fit that kind of thing. But yeah, that's not the right way to hunt. That's for sure.
No, it was just completely unfair to us and completely unfair to the animals too. So
yeah. All right, Bob.
Yeah, it was depressing.
Thanks for bringing it to our attention. I appreciate you calling in. 907-433-3150. One other call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Mark from Fairbanks. And
good morning.
Speakerphone. Hey, I know good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I know we're short on time, so I'm just going to make this quick. The lady that called in about long COVID, so this is people suffering from long COVID or repeated COVID, they can check out The Real Dr. Judy. I think these are all .com, but it seems like the real doctors, they have a real good track record helping people. TheRealDrJudy.com, TheRealDrJudy.com, DrStellaMD.com, DrStellaMD.com, and then Dr. Peter McCullough. Sorry, I don't remember how to pronounce it exactly, but Dr. Peter McCullough, McCullough, McCullough.
Okay.
So to help people who are suffering from COVID issues.
Yeah.
The Real Dr. Judy, Dr. Stella MD.
Yep, and Dr. McCullough. Yeah, Dr. McCullough is going to be speaking at that COVID Alliance meeting, so it's good stuff. I know that there's people out there who are suffering it, and Mark, I appreciate you calling in and giving us the details on it. Thank you so much. All right, folks, we are out of time for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Brad Keithley, bright and early. Join us in the 6 o'clock club. That's a free club. You just got to show up at 6 o'clock and listen to the show. And you're an official member. We got T-shirts and everything. It's Monday. You're going to have a great one. I guarantee it. For twice your money back. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Okay. Well, my friends, it's, I guess we got to go do our thing. We got to go do our thing and be adults. Be adults. All right. I'm just looking through any of the comments here. Definitely a correlation, says Donna. Numerous studies show that small government, low taxes. Come on, show the comment. My God, it's taken so long. Numerous studies show that small government, low tax states retain and attract investment, people, and jobs. There you go. Yeah, I like it. All right, my friends, it's good it's good to see you, and I appreciate you appreciate you being here. We will see you guys tomorrow. Take a nap. My dad says go take a nap. Can you write me a doctor's note, Dad? I might need that. If I didn't have so much work to do today, I might do that. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Love y'all. Have a great day.
Goodbye.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.